Yeah, all right, welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports Today. Matt and Joe with you here, getting you ready for everything you need ahead of Week 4 in the National Football League. It's time now for Start Sit. Yep, sometimes these decisions drive us crazy, but let's take a breath, realize it is Week 4. So coming up soon, Week 6, 7, then you can start to go crazy. But right now, let's save some of the crazy. Joe, the Start Sit questions are pouring in. Let's start with the Jets and Denver and the Raiders in Cleveland. Braylon Allen or Zamir White? I lean Braylon Allen. Thoughts from you?
Yeah. I'm leaning right there with you. And the expert consensus of Fantasy Pros is as well in the ranks. Allen's ranked at 31st. Zamir is a couple spots below him. And I think with good reason, too. I see stacked boxes in his future today. No Devontae Adams. So it's going to be a lot of Jacoby Myers, a lot of Brock Bowers, and a lot of questions of Gardner Minshew being able to function in this offense. You know, Minshew we all thought was, all right, well, it's kind of the boring, whatever. We can get by with Gardner Minshew. He's an improvement over Aiden O'Connell. But now I think there's questions whether or not that is the case. The Raiders looked awful last week. And Braylon Allen, I think, is in a situation here where it's a 22nd ranked rush defense of the Denver Broncos. You're going to have Garrett Wilson most likely not, be necessarily running up the flagpole, putting up amazing stats today. And if you look at the usage here for Braylon Allen, it's really interesting. 11 carries last week, 55 yards, 3 catches for 13 yards. So he's being used quite a bit. Now, that's probably very frustrating for the Breece Hall managers out there. I get that. But if you're looking for a flex play this week at the RB position or a deeper league RB2, I'd rather be starting Braylon Allen. I think he has some touchdown equity. He scored 2 touchdowns, which came both in the same game against Tennessee. But I think what you're seeing is the Jets feel like they have something in the youngest player in the league. He is just 20 years old. He's the youngest running back and the youngest player in the league. And he's got matchups coming up against Denver, then Minnesota, Buffalo, Pittsburgh. So some tough matchups coming up. Today's matchup is favorable. So if you have Braylon Allen, this is the time to start him. And then, if you want to dangle him out there with the upcoming matchups ahead to the Breece Hall manager in your league, that might be an interesting spin. But Braylon Allen, for me, I think is a guy that I want to start over Zamir White this particular week.
All right, let's keep that form of thinking going as we talk wide receivers now. The Kansas City Chiefs are at the Chargers and Miami against Tennessee. So it's going to be Xavier Worthy for Kansas City or Jalen Waddle for Miami. I think a lot of people have given up on Jalen Waddle. I haven't, but today it'll be Xavier Worthy just because we were talking about the fact of who's throwing the football matters in this discussion. Joe?
Yeah, I'm not ready to give up on Jalen Waddle either. He would be another big buy low for me. Tyler Huntley's going to be playing quarterback today, not Skylar Thompson. I think that's a good thing. Tyler Huntley's a pretty decent backup quarterback. Why he was floating around there, I don't know. Why the Dolphins didn't have a better backup quarterback situation, knowing the history of Tua's concussions and the potential for him missing time, is simply mind-blowing. I don't know. That is such a deficit and just an awful job by the front office there to not be insured properly for that potential missed time of Tua. And then they were scrambling around, and I think they might have gotten lucky here with Huntley. Huntley, whenever he was called upon to replace Lamar Jackson, he, I think, performed pretty darn well. Now, it's a new playbook. It's a new situation. The news is he's picked things up very well. But you have Tyreek Hill. You have Jalen Waddle. You have some pieces to work with. I think this particular week, Xavier Worthy is the safer play. So let's say you're playing against CeeDee Lamb this week and you're already behind. And maybe you play Worthy and just try to take your points. And you hope that Waddle starts to make some improvements here. It's not his fault. It's the quarterback play. So if the quarterback play improves, hopefully Waddle will be better. I think both are startable today. I think Worthy is the safer go, but Waddle would be an asset that I would absolutely be looking to trade for right now. Even if it doesn't look good this week, even more reason to go and be aggressive on him next week, because I do believe that talent is still there. They paid Jalen Waddle. Waddle's going to work. It's just a matter of, can the quarterback play support him? And so far, it has not in 2024.
All right, this next start sit question comes in at the tight end position here. It's Isaiah Likely, Baltimore against Buffalo. Going to be a great game. Or Mike Gesicki, Cincinnati at Carolina. Joe, as you often say, whomever falls into the end zone is going to be a tight end one. Likely is used a little differently here, but who do you favor?
Yeah, this is a really tricky one here because I still see Mark Andrews ranked ahead of Isaiah Likely. And I don't understand what's going on. Look, now, since week 2, likely has had 40% route share, 8.2% target share. So that's not great, right? That's not going in a great conversation, a great direction. Gesicki so far, I understand, he had that big week 2 against the Chiefs. Last week he was fine in PPR. I think Gesicki, again, is probably the safer play in PPR. But if you're in a standard league and you're looking for touchdowns, I just don't think Gesicki has any touchdown equity. I think it's all Jamar Chase, it's all Zach Moss, it's all T. Higgins, it's all those guys. Even Yoshi Voss, I think, has more touchdown equity in this offense than necessarily Mike Gesicki. So I would lean towards likely and rolling the dice there in this big game here. But again, the safer PPR play in the full PPR is probably where I would go with Gesicki and just kind of hope for your 8 or 9 points and get out, because right now that's getting it done at tight end. You get 8 points. That's pretty much you're a tight end 1 this year, especially with McBride out this week too. Just don't have a lot of options out there.
My gosh, what a difference a season makes. All right, let's turn our attention to the quarterback position now here. Anthony Richardson has Pittsburgh. It's going to be a tough go. Sam Darnold has Green Bay at Green Bay. Joe, the ball's in your court. I lean Darnold, but I'm not so sure.
Well, I mean, Sam Darnold is QB5 this year. I just want to say those words out loud. It's QB5 over 3 games. He has 8 touchdowns, 2 picks. This is very similar to that. We had the Trevor Lawrence conversation at the end with Daniel Jones, right? Well, we're just looking at numbers. And we remove the names and we just look at the numbers and we say, oh, look, this is the guy. And this is really who he is because this is how he's performing. Well, we could do that in a negative light or we could do that in a positive light. And if we do it in a positive light here with Sam Darnold, do you want the guy that's thrown for 657 yards and 8 touchdowns and 2 picks? I do. That's the guy that I want to start in a huge game against Green Bay. Now, Jair Alexander's very good. He's going to give Justin Jefferson all he can handle. But where's Richardson so far? Well, Richardson so far is QB 15 on the season. He has just 3 touchdown passes and 6 interceptions. Now, he does have 100 rushing yards. That's the difference maker. He has a rushing touchdown. That is where people would say, well, I want to lean this way. But against the Pittsburgh Steelers defense that's really been so good, and I think is going to do a really good job of containing Richardson, right? I think if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, what you're going to do is contain Anthony Richardson. Keep him in check. You have that QB spy. You try your best to make him beat you with his arm and with his reads, because that's where his deficit is right now. He's got talent at wide receiver. He is still struggling to make good decisions. So if you're the Steelers, you blitz him, you try to contain him in the pocket, make him make decisions. And so far, I mean, this decision seems pretty easy to me, which is I'm going to start Sam Darnold, even though on paper it's Green Bay and it's a big marquee matchup. I think I just feel safer about what I'm going to get from Darnold.
All right, decisions, we all have them. At SportsGrid, at SportsGrid TV, those are social media handles. Get in on the conversation. We're talking start, sit here with Joe Pisapia. Joe, let's go to Deshaun Watson at Las Vegas or Will Levis at Miami. I cannot wait to hear your answer.
Look, these guys are back-to-back in the consensus rankings this week, and this is why we're having this conversation. If Superflex, right, maybe you've had some bad luck, and you got to make a decision like this, right? I think with Max Crosby out and the way the Raiders defense kind of checked out last week, I'm concerned. And I think I would lean towards Deshaun Watson in this scenario. I'm not a big Will Levis fan. I think Will Levis against Miami, another defense that's frankly not very good. I understand the appeal of Will Levis this week, but again, he's finished as QB 27, 22, and 18. Will Levis never fails to make bad decisions and give up games, whereas Deshaun Watson hasn't been great, but he's finished as QB 17, QB 11, and QB 16. He's been better. So I'm going to give the slight edge here to Deshaun Watson and hope for the best. Maybe this is a spot start here where you just close your eyes and you don't watch the game. And at the end, you hope for, 15 points and you go, okay, things worked out. We come back, tons of injuries to break down. We'll tell you who's in and who's out for week 4 right here on FSU.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports today. Matt Striker and Joe Pisapia with you here. It's time to look into the NFL injury update. You know, Joe, for me, there's just so many different ways that people can get their information. I feel like that's actually a detriment because you get conflicting reports. You don't know what's going on. I think if you just kind of stick one or two avenues that you know you're getting credible reporting, that's what matters. So that's what we try to give you here. Injury update now, based off of what we know up to the minute. Let's start in San Francisco because this player's status impacts his offensive ecosystem. Joe?
Yeah, George Kittle with the hamstring, unavailable last week, is going to be available this week, so that's a good thing. Now we saw Jawan Jennings go off. But again, I keep coming back to the same thing. It's just because Kittle is back doesn't mean Jennings goes bye-bye. He is absolutely still viable. Brock Purdy has shown he has a connection with Jawan Jennings. He showed it in the playoffs. He showed it in the Super Bowl. Jennings is a pretty good player, which makes you wonder why you spent all that money on Brandon Ayuk if you could have just had Jennings, Debo, and Kittle, but that's a conversation for another time. Debo Samuel, however, his teammate, is actually also going to play today, and as we continue to look through wide receivers, Devontae Adams is out, and he could be sidelined on a, quote, week-to-week basis. So this might be the time to look at Devontae Adams and maybe say, Devontae Adams does not want to play for the Raiders. And this might be a sell moment in fantasy leagues for Devontae Adams because if he's on I'm a week to week, I'm going to see if I'm going to play. That sounds like a guy making business decisions to me that Antonio Pierce was talking about. And if we're making business decisions here, either he gets traded or he is holding out until he really is in a situation where he wants to play. And Devontae Adams clearly, I think, does not want to be a Raider anymore. That's the read in between the lines thing on that. Other news and notes here before we get to the next one. Chargers offensive tackle Joe Alt will not play. This is a huge loss. Alt has been terrific this year. So he's dealing with a sprained MCL. He could be out for a couple weeks too. So this is a huge blow to, again, J.K. Dobbins' value, Justin Herbert's value, the collective Chargers offense. So not good there. Nick Chubb is going to be practicing this week. We'll see how that goes. So if someone didn't draft him in your league or dropped him because there's no IR spots, something to think about. But more injuries to get to here. Matt, who do you have lined up for us next?
All right, well, the Arizona Cardinals are quickly becoming a bettor's delight. We know that Trey McBride will not be playing today, but I want to know about a certain other star player.
Yeah, the other one here is Marvin Harrison dealing with a quad. He is going to play. So Marvin Harrison in. Trey McBride, though, his teammate is out for this week with the concussion, which we all knew was going to be the case. So Marvin Harrison is a great opportunity. You also could possibly stream a guy like Greg Dortch this week. We've seen when there's targets available that Dortch has been a guy sometimes that will scoop them up. So that would not be shocking in this contest here today to see maybe Greg Dortch on some low numbers go on the overs. Again, sometimes it's those sneaky low numbers that can make you a lot of money on players that nobody else is wagering on. So keep a close eye on that. But Marvin Harrison has touchdown equity today. They're going to need Marvin Harrison, and it's a good matchup because that Washington secondary is bad. So Marvin Harrison's in a smash, so it's great that he's healthy, great that he's playing. I would rather have McBride on the field too, but we'll take what we can get. And right now, Marvin Harrison is another player that we're going to get. Somebody else that looks like we're going to get too is both running backs for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Bucky Irving with the hamstring and Rachaad White, who came down with an illness about a day ago. Both are expected to play against the Eagles. So already it seems like the worm is turning in that backfield where you're getting more Bucky Irving. So this will be one to watch. I really don't want to start either of those two guys today because I don't know where the workload is going, who is healthier at this point. So a really tricky situation against a good Eagles front. So keep that in mind today. Even though the Bucs running backs are in, maybe they shouldn't be in your lineups.
All right, let's keep the running back conversation going. Joe, what do you have that can lend some clarity to Seattle's backfield?
To Seattle's backfield, Ken Walker is in, which means Zach Charbonnet probably out. He's been dealing with that oblique. We've been hoping that he could come back and play. He finally is back, so that's good news for the Seahawks. We keep saying, okay, the Seahawks need to get tested. We thought maybe Miami would be that test. Well, it wasn't because Skylar Thompson failed that test miserably, and he got sent to summer school. But now you get the Detroit Lions on the road. That Seattle Seahawks defense is very aggressive. Is Jared Goff going to struggle with that? We'll see. Seattle has zero pressure on them. And this could be a huge win for them in terms of looking at this division long term, because we know the kind of injuries the Rams have had, the kind of injuries the 49ers have had. Arizona isn't quite ready for prime time. Seattle looks like a team that's kind of been reborn. Now, they played the Patriots, they played the Broncos, and they played the Dolphins. So this is where the rubber meets the road. I really like Seattle and the points in this game too tonight coming up. I think tomorrow night, I should say, I think there's real opportunity where you look at them and you say, all of the pressure is on Detroit, none of the pressure is on Seattle. And Seattle's defense has played very well. And Geno Smith, frankly, has played very well too. So I'd be getting Kenneth Walker back in that lineup. Also of note, Chris Olave is a game time decision that typically does not go well today. So if you have Chris Olave, have other plans ready because there's a good chance he does not play. Very rarely do we get the game time decision goes and then go well on top of it.
Right. All right. So normally, in my experience, I would say 8 out of 10 people never pay attention to offensive line. They never pay attention to defensive injuries, things like that. But when we look at the Chargers here, we have to look at the offensive line and realize that they are banged up all over the place. So now we want to look at Justin Herbert. We want to think about his mobility. There is an issue with his ankle, Joe. What do you know?
Well, what I know is he's going to play. What's unfortunate is that Joe Alt is not. And the Chiefs defense has been very good. So this is not the best case scenario here for Justin Herbert. Now, look, Herbert's had some big-time performances against the Chiefs before, so I don't want to count him out altogether. He is going to have Palmer back in this game, too. So you got Palmer, you got Ladd McConkey, you got Quentin Johnson. It's the first time everybody's going to be on the field healthy at the same time. So you might have to see a lot of shotgun here from Justin Herbert. Give him a little bit more space. Give him a little bit more of a berth here. Give him a little bit more time to get rid of the football because you are dealing with multiple backups on the offensive line. It's just not a good scenario. So in this case scenario, I would be looking to start Jordan Love over him, Justin Fields over him, maybe even Anthony Richardson over him. I just don't love Herbert this week in this matchup in the injury where he's dealing with too. So a lot of bad circumstance. It's not impossible that Herbert could be good. It's just unlikely. So let's invest elsewhere for week 4. When we return, speaking of investments, there's a guy you should be betting on MVP because the narrative is built. We'll tell you who right after this.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event The atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome back in to FST Fantasy Sports Today. Matt Striker, Joe Pisapia, and a great crew behind the glass. Folks, I don't know what you do for a living, but if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. Just remember that. And I absolutely love this crew. Joseph, it's time to make everyone money. It's not the only reason I love you. Futures update here. We do this each and every week. We did it throughout the baseball season, and it was something that was able to mitigate a lot of the losses that people had. So we do it here in the football season. Always remember that you can cash out, and that's Joe's big thing. He taught me that. So if lines really move away or in your favor, just keep that in mind. But let's talk about the regular season MVP, because for a while it was just one name. But now a second name has emerged. Joseph, take it from here.
Yeah, look, every year I always tell people I bet two people for MVP. Usually it's Patrick Mahomes and somebody else to start the season.
Right.
And then I watch it shrink and then decide whether or not I want to double down, cash out, figure that out. This year was the first time where I did not see anybody else that I really could make a case for. I wanted to let it play out a little bit. And now I'm jumping in the pool to somebody else for that number two, that hedge. And that person's Josh Allen. And there's a couple reasons why. You've seen Vegas move significantly. The Bills are 3-0. Huge game coming up this weekend for them against the Ravens. But regardless if they win or lose, I think the Josh Allen narrative is an interesting one. Josh Allen is playing with kind of a no-name offense, right? You know, we know Dalton Kincaid and Keon Coleman and Khalil Shakir and all those guys because we're fantasy nerds. But the general public does not know who these guys are. I'm telling you right now. If you went to the general football fan and say, what do you think of Khalil Shakir? They'd be like, who? I have no idea what you're talking about, right? And I think that is positive because it looks like Josh Allen is just literally taking this team, putting it on his shoulders, and willing them to victory every week. And that's because he is. And the shot that he took on Stephon Diggs, saying it's nice to play with a bunch of guys who just don't care about the stats, they just care about winning, I think tells you that Josh Allen feels free. He feels loose. And if you look at this award for the last couple of years, it's been dominated by a couple people, Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. Now, Lamar hasn't gotten off to the best start. Patrick Mahomes still has. It's why he's towards the top of this award still. But after Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, the next closest guy is C.J. Stroud at plus 1,400. This is literally a two-person race right now. Now, if you want to tell me Jordan Love makes a run, playing with this injury, okay, cool. I'm listening to that. I think you can write a script for that. If you want to tell me the script of, hey, Sam Darnold and the Vikings with his defense win the division, he comes out of nowhere, he's plus 2,800, that's fun. But do we really think that the media is going to vote for Sam Darnold for MVP? I don't. Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, I think, are the great separators right now for this award. It's not to say that Lamar can't get back in it. It's not to say that, a fun story like Jordan Love at plus 4,500 right now isn't worth a sprinkle just to see, because I think it's too early to rule him out. Joe Burrow, I mean, that would have to be a massive comeback, but Joe Burrow right now on this award is plus 2,000. So plus 4,500 for Jordan Love is a fascinating long shot. But right now is the time to jump in on Josh Allen, because guess what? If he does beat Lamar Jackson, this number is going to be very different come Tuesday morning.
All right, let's get a little quicker here on our step here. We talked about the regular season MVP. Let's talk about the regular season offensive player of the year. Saquon Barkley, Justin Jefferson. This is the conversation. Let's go.
Look, Jefferson's been incredible with Sam Darnold, and I don't think we can cut him out. And Tyreek Hill, who was the favorite for this award, is now dealing with backup quarterbacks. So Jefferson at plus 600 looks great. Can Saquon Barkley stay healthy for an entire season with his workload? I don't know. History tells us no. So I think this is the interesting time to jump onto the bandwagon for Justin Jefferson plus 600. And he might have a down game this week, and if so, this number is probably going to float around the same area. So you don't have to bet it this week if you want to wait another week. But considering the other competition here, Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill, things haven't gone great for this award so far. Christian McCaffrey is not available for this award all year. So Jefferson at plus 600 looks really good right now.
All right, Joe, who wins the NFC North? That's a division that houses the Detroit Lions, the Minnesota Vikings, the Green Bay Packers, and the Chicago Bears. Take it away.
Well, I think this is a fascinating setup right now because you see the Lions at plus 155, the Vikings at plus 195, and the Packers at plus 270. The Bears are not competition. If Seattle should beat the Lions and the Vikings should beat Green Bay in Green Bay, this is going to look really interesting next week. This is going to be completely flip-flop. So it really comes down to what team do you believe in the most? Do you believe in the Vikings defense and Sam Darnold? Do you believe in Jordan Love's return? Or do you believe in the Detroit Lions team that you saw? It's not going to be decided this week, but you're going to see movement this week depending on how these games turn out. A fascinating division to keep an eye on. More after this.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
right, folks, welcome back into FST, Fantasy Sports Today. Who is ready to win today? Week 4 coming up. Been talking about it. I think it's a trap week. Be careful out there if you're wagering. Only go with what your heart is telling you. Don't get too crazy and don't get mired in those parlays. Come on now, let's be smart. Joe, let's talk over-unders here because a lot of times you can find some decent numbers. All right, here we go. Geno Smith, 239.5 passing yards. Over or under? What says you, Joey P?
Joey P says over. You're going to see a lot of overs today. I will give you a couple unders at the end here just to be a little balanced. But, yeah, I'm looking at the way Geno Smith has played. I'm looking at the total for that game. And I think Geno Smith, especially, look, you have returning Ken Walker. That's great. But it is his first game back. So I think Charbonnet will still get a little work as well. So it's really on Geno's shoulders. And you know that Detroit can put up points, right? So that's a good thing. So this is like the big prove it game for Geno Smith. And so far, he has looked really sharp. Now, he's looked sharp against some lesser teams. This is the real test, but I think he's going to be up for it. DK Metcalf has played great. He's got Lockett. He's got JSN. He's got a full complement of healthy weapons. So I think this could be a really big fantasy week for Geno Smith. I would start him over Richardson this week. I would start him over Love this week in this matchup against Detroit, for better or worse. And it feels like he could certainly go even past that 250 mark, 260 mark. And you have guys like DK Metcalf who can have these big plays that really pads those stats. So give me the over on Geno Smith in what I think is going to be a game where Seattle covers at the very least. And I would not be shocked if they came away with a W. I think the Lions are playing a little tight so far this year. They got to loosen up a little bit. You know, it's harder when you're at the top of the mountain, everybody's coming for you. And I think you're seeing a little bit of that from the Lions so far in 2024.
All right. Now, when I said stay away from those parlays, I meant those wild 4 and 5 legs. I know they return a nice number, but look, 2, I get it. A 2 leg, for instance, I see Justin Fields anytime touchdown. I'm interested in that. Now I come across Justin Fields 39.5 rushing yards. Maybe I pair that. But before I go with Joe here, over or under on this number?
I'm going to go over. Again, you have Najee Harris only this week working in the backfield. So I would not be shocked to see a lot more designed runs when it comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers offense this week. So if you're looking here for the rushing total for him, I think Justin Fields can go over it. Now, last week he did not. Obviously, it was not as big of a rushing day for him. But I also see him potentially scoring a touchdown in this game on the ground because, let's be honest, everybody, that Indianapolis defense is not good. Now, to answer your question, since we got to figure it out here, that number of plus 160 for anytime touchdown scorer that was there Friday is now plus 150 for Justin Fields. So clearly Vegas seems to agree. Mm-hmm. If you put those two things together, the over for the rushing total and the touchdown scorer for Fields, you get plus 235. So that kind of 2-leg parlay I've had a lot of success with this year. Last week with Jamar Chase to go over 80.5 and score a touchdown. Well, that happened in the first half. This week already, CeeDee Lamb to go over his total and score a touchdown. Well, guess what? That worked too. So this is another situation where, again, Justin Fields, can he get over 40 rushing yards in this game? Yeah, I think he can. And can he get that touchdown? Absolutely. Now, you bet them both separately and then put them together in that parlay too to have some fun and hedge yourself a little bit. That's a smart way to do it. But Fields is a top 10 QB in the ranks this week for a reason. And every week he looks very comfortable. And I think this is a really good opportunity on the turf for him to run amok all over the Colts.
All right, let's talk about a tight end here who has a number set at 4.5 receptions on a team that is decimated on the offensive side of the football by injuries. Dallas Goedert, over or under 4.5 receptions today?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with the over, and I think I prefer going with the receptions as opposed to the yardage. The yardage total is 55.5, so if they really key in on him, I think you could see him possibly underwhelm. I'm not saying he's going to, but it's in the realm of possibilities. Whereas if we're just looking for the actual receptions here, and this number has actually gone up in the last 24 hours to 5.5. So if you can find it in 4.5 spots too. Yeah, I think everybody kind of sees that there's going to be target volume for him. Does that equate to as many yards as last week? Well, that's trickier because once again, you don't have Devonta Smith. You don't have A.J. Brown. You don't have other people to account for. So you can really hone in on Dallas Goedert and make Jahan Dotson or somebody else beat you. I think you can play those guys one-on-one. I think you want to give more of the attention out there to Goedert. So if anything, stay away from perhaps the volatility of the receiving yards total and instead look for the receptions. If you can still get it at some markets at 4.5, pounce on it. 5.5, I would still go there as well. I think he's probably looking more like 7 or 8 this week, just out of necessity for what's remaining or what's left in this Eagles passing attack.
Joe, sometimes I forget that you and I are in the bubble of the Northeast, and I wonder, outside of this area, how many people are aware of the Jets' not-so-secret weapon in their backfield, Braylon Allen. 34.5 rushing yards, that's the number here. How are you leaning?
I'm going to lean over here. Again, that Denver Bronco defense against the run is 22nd in the league. It's not good. It wasn't good last year. And the Jets, I think, are pretty clear what they want to do, which is play defense, run the football. So Aaron Rodgers is going to take a couple shots here. You might see a Mike Williams touchdown today. You might see Alan Lazard work today. I don't think you're going to see much of Garrett Wilson if history teaches us anything so far with Surtain. It's not that Garrett Wilson is going to catch a ball, but it's going to be difficult. It's a tough challenge here. And with the way Rodgers and Wilson have looked so far, it's tough to see a big day. So instead, it's a lot of Breece Hall. But instead, you could look for the smaller number on Braylon Allen and just kind of go that way too, just in case he has that one big play. But I think what you're seeing is that difference of, you have the extra time off. You have a guy who's working more into the offense. And the eye test is easy. He's passing it. And Braylon Allen looks really good in this backfield. So you might get more of a two-headed monster from the Jets, in which case it's easier to go over the smaller numbers, isn't it? So maybe fade the Hall props and look for the Braylon Allen ones instead.
All right, when we're looking at overs, a lot of times I will look at an implied total in a game and then try to see where the offense is going to go. So let's talk about this Arizona-Washington game. You have mentioned how you believe Washington's secondary could be termed soft. Marvin Harrison will play in spite of the quad. I have Marvin Harrison Jr. anytime touchdown, but I'm looking at the receiving yards of 69.5. Do I go over or under? Can I pair it?
Well, look, I would. Marvin Harrison Jr. Has shown you he has that big game ability. In week 4, he's got the Commanders. The Commanders have already given up 9 touchdown receptions to opposing wide receivers. 9. And we're only 3 weeks into the season. So no other team has given up 6, just for perspective there. So this is another one, too, where if you want to take the touchdown and the over on the receptions, I don't think it's a bad idea. I think it's actually probably a pretty good investment. So Fields combo, 2-leg parlay, Harrison combo, 2-leg parlay. I think those are some good ways to go in week 4.
All right. For those that are just tuning in, Joe had some interesting things to say about the trajectory of Travis Kelce. And Joe, perhaps you'll echo your statements from earlier while attacking this prop of 46.5 receiving yards. Let's talk Travis Kelce today and moving forward.
Yeah, it's today, it's now, or maybe it's never again. And I know that sounds kind of weird to say, but 46.5, look, you're getting a really low number here. And that's why I wouldn't go to receptions. I wouldn't necessarily go to touchdowns. Just hyper focus here on this, because 2 big catches from Kelce might get you this number. So don't necessarily look for him to get 12 targets. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. Instead, say, all right, he's got a really good history against this team. Totals have been really good against this team in terms of the yardage. Let's look for Travis Kelce to at least give us some yards today. That's a simple thing to bet on. Let's not layer it too much. But again, 3 catches and one of them maybe being a big 30-yard catch. Guess what? He gets this. So hyper focus and look for Travis Kelce to break out today. And if it doesn't happen today, then next week we can have the conversation and the deep dive of maybe it's just time to move on. A couple guys, too, for unders today, just to throw this out there. DeAndre Swift, 35.5 rushing yards. I'm going under. I think you see more Roschon Johnson today. And Rashad White, 38.5 rushing yards coming off that illness. And Bucky Irving is playing. I think I'd go under there, too. The Tampa Bay backfield has been no bueno for fantasy so far in 2024. We're going to hit a quick break. When we come back, though, we're going to talk about the waiver wire. Last-minute guys to add to your roster.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back into FST. It's Fantasy Sports Today with Matt Striker and Joe Pisapia, giving you everything you need in order to dominate, whether it be season-long fantasy, DFS, straight-up wagering, whatever it is, we've got you covered. Joey P's the man. He wrote the Fantasy Black Book. It's available now. When you get a chance, go check it out. It's changing the way people are just winning leagues and just winning overall in life, Joe. So thank you for that. Let's go to the waiver wire here, because as each week rolls on, this segment becomes more and more important. Let's start in Atlanta. We have a wide receiver here that is available in just about half of your leagues. Joe, who do you like?
Yeah, look, Darnell Mooney has really stepped up. A couple weeks ago, it was fun to see, that big splashy touchdown against the Eagles. And you go, okay, well, that was fun, but that's kind of a one-off. Last week, 8 catches on 8 targets. That's not a one-off. That's something we can build upon. Big matchup here against the New Orleans Saints. And Darnell Mooney is getting looks from Kirk Cousins because Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback who understands that if you're going to double up Drake London or double up Kyle Pitts, that somebody's open and that person's probably Darnell Mooney. So if you're in full PPR leagues, Darnell Mooney's a guy that can get you 15 points today. I feel pretty confident about that. Like, can he go 7 for 75? Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So I think Darnell Mooney's a guy that should be rostered in more than 55% of leagues. And if you've been watching this show, we gave you Jordan Mason ahead. We gave you Juwan Jennings ahead. We're telling you to pick up these guys before they have the big Sundays and before then you have to spend all your free agent budget. So look at your rosters. Look who the low person is on your totem pole there, who isn't seeing the light of day, and take some shots on some of these guys for free on your waivers on Sunday morning, because it's a great opportunity to get ahead of waivers come Tuesday. And that's when you have to empty that tank for that fab after big performances. Now, is Darnell Mooney a wide receiver 1? No. Could he be a wide receiver 3 who's a guy that can help you out with bye weeks? Absolutely, yes. So Darnell Mooney is an ad for me this week. And I think after the last 2 weeks, it's pretty hard to argue otherwise.
Darnell Mooney or Jalen Waddle rest of season, really quickly before we move on?
Still Jalen Waddle. I'm not completely giving up hope yet. I think Huntley's good enough to bridge you back to Tua whenever Tua comes back. And it seems like that is the plan right now.
Gosh. All right. Conversation for another day. Let's go now to the aforementioned New York Jets best kept secret. This is Braylon Allen here now. He is available in over half of your leagues. Joe, again, in a world where everyone is just so running back centric, I can't imagine that this guy is still available, but here he is.
He is still available in 50% of leagues. Now, if you're in a sharp league, he's probably already picked up. If you're playing in the Northeast or tri-state area, chances are he got picked up already. But if he's still floating around, add him right now, even in a 10-team league, because if something should happen to Breece Hall, this is your guy to step up. This is your guy that would become automatically a RB1 rest of season. He is still very young. He was a 3-down back at Wisconsin, but you're seeing a better version of him than you even saw at Wisconsin. So I think what you're seeing out of Braylon Allen is it's a good offensive line he's running behind. He doesn't have the full workload yet. He looks really fresh, really sharp. He's also catching the ball too. So Braylon Allen is a guy that you can plug and play as a flex this week in some leagues. But even in shallow leagues, he should be rostered way more into that 75-80% range. And right now, it's still under 50 overall in the consensus, and that's just wrong.
All right, let's try now to have a conversation. It's directed at Caleb Williams managers, Anthony Richardson managers, but overall managers that are just keeping an eye on their quarterback play. There is a quarterback that is available in about 7 out of 10 leagues, Joe. Who is this guy, and why should we be interested?
It's Geno Smith, and I think it's time to get interested. And you mentioned, Richardson, not a great matchup today. Jordan Love coming back from the injury. Do I really want to go that? Look, Geno Smith so far on the year has been really solid. He is QB 13, so he's right on that fringe. He finished as QB 7, weeks 1 and week 2. And then last week, unfortunately, QB 21, but he still threw for 289 yards. It was the 2 interceptions that kind of undid him from that moment. But you're not going to expect him to run for 30 yards every week like he did in that first week of the season. But can he be a guy that delivers, a 250-yard performance with 2 touchdowns and a pick? I think he can, and that'll finish as a QB1 this week with the way things are structured. So to me, an alternative here this week to the Richardsons, to, as you said, the Caleb Williams, maybe even the Brock Purdy's to a certain extent too, with the game script that's kind of underwhelming against the Patriots, where you figure they have a lead and maybe you sit on it, is Justin Fields at 29% roster too. Fields is going to use his legs in this one. Fields is a great matchup against Indianapolis. Fields, I think, is starting to show you that the confidence is growing. He's starting to pick up the offense. He has right now ranked 5th among quarterbacks in carries, red zone carries, and rushing touchdowns. He's also 8th in rushing yards per game. Those are all really good fantasy projections for points coming up here down the pike. You saw him throw for 245 last week against the Chargers. That's great. If he can have a game today where he throws for over 200 and rushes for 70, imagine what that's going to do. Imagine what's going to happen in free agency, right? And look, bye weeks are coming. So just as an asset, Fields is a really interesting asset to own, because when Fields is at his best, he is a top 10 fantasy quarterback even when he played for the terrible Bears teams. So just keep that in mind, not only to play matchups, but also with bye weeks coming, that Fields could be a very valuable piece, not just to your roster, but somebody else's as the weeks go on.
All right, one of the most popular portions of this segment is when Joe gets in these sneaky little defensive streaming picks, and we have another one for you this week, Joe. Probably widely available across all leagues, but who do you like and why?
Yeah, look, the Titans from a fantasy perspective are interesting because we just don't know what Tyler Huntley can bring yet. It's a tall order because they have a lot of talent on that roster. So with Tyler Huntley playing, I like it a little less than I did. But in terms of streaming options, it's an interesting one. Chances are the Cleveland Browns are already rostered. But the Titans are ranked as a top 10 fantasy defense this week because of, frankly, where Miami has fallen off the map. So the hope is Huntley can pick things up quickly. But even so, with a week of practice, is it enough necessarily to be really good? The Titans defense has some really good players on it. I think they're very viable this week, so I would keep them in mind. And look, that Vikings defense, too, is not rostered in enough leagues. I don't care if they're playing the Packers and Jordan Love this week. That Vikings defense has been absolutely tremendous. They should be starting as well. In fact, they are overall in fantasy right now one of the top 3 defenses. So streamers, absolutely. 3 and out when we return right here on FST.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back into FST. Matt Striker and Joe Pisapia. And while everyone else is talking nonsense, hey, what are you watching? Oh, did you see this on Netflix? We're talking about things that matter. What's Joe looking for on this week 4 of the NFL? Joe, 3 and out, 3 things that you're watching.
Look, this is a great weekend for football, and you got 3 marquee matchups. I want to start with the Vikings and Packers. So much to dissect in this game. That Vikings defense is ferocious. They get after the quarterback. Jordan Love is still recovering from an MCL after a couple weeks. How mobile is he? Can he immediately make Jaden Reed and Christian Watson and company viable again? So much to unpack here. And let's be honest, the Vikings have really taken it to the Packers in their own building over the last couple of years. So really big-time fantasy stuff, big-time wagering stuff, big-time ramifications this early in the season on a game like that where this division looks super tight, and that's going to be one to watch. Speaking of this division too, the Lions. Being there in home against the Seattle Seahawks, a team that has played great, but the competition has been subpar. So how good are the Seahawks? I think we're going to find out. I think the Seahawks cover in this game. I do. I see you're getting 4.5 in a lot of spots with the Seahawks. I'm more. The Lions, to me, feel like a team that needs to shake the dust off a little bit. Needs to be a little bit more aggressive and realize everybody's coming at you, so it's time to have some swagger and be ready. David Montgomery has been scoring touchdowns like crazy. Get him in your lineups. But this is a huge game here and another standalone moment where the Lions are going to be on display, and we want to see the Lions show up. But I think they're going to have their hands full with the Seahawks. And if they don't, if the Seahawks really fail and get blown out, then we have the answer, which is the Seahawks were merely a product of schedule, not a product of this new coaching staff, new offensive coordinator, new system. So that's going to be very telling. Now, can the Seahawks bounce back from that? Of course they can. It's early in the season, and sometimes you need to get weighed and measured, and maybe the Lions are going to do that to the Seahawks. But that is going to have some big ramifications here regardless either way. And then the Bills and Ravens. This game is a must-win for the Ravens, and we hate saying must-win every week for the Ravens, but holy crap, you got to win this game. The Ravens looked great last week. They pounded the hell out of the Cowboys. I think they're going to pound the hell out of the Rock this week against the Buffalo Bills. So we'll see how that goes. Again, the Bills going on the road. This is more of a test for the Buffalo Bills also. They're not playing the Cardinals here. They're playing the Ravens. That's a different bird with a different feather. So to me, Josh Allen, as good as he has been, It's time to now see, can he elevate this no-name offensive squad with him to compete with teams like the Ravens? Because those are the teams you're going to have to beat when you get in the playoffs. Now, if he does and he goes to 4-0, Matt, what do you think that number is on Josh Allen on Tuesday morning for MVP? You think it's minus?
It's getting there, absolutely. Look, this is the litmus test for a lot of teams, but what I like as a wagerer is it starts to give me some clarity. I have questions. Hey, are the Vikings for real? Hey, how do I wager on Seattle? I don't like having that type of uneasiness so early in the season. So I think it's good that you have these kind of games where it's going to shake out. So come week 6, don't the Vikings get back like a TJ Hawkinson week 6? How am I going to wager on them? These are the things I need to know, because I'll be honest with you, I'm padding my bank account. So come week 6, 7, and on, I'm playing with their paper. And so far, so good. Knock wood, I'm doing all right, Joe, and it's thanks to people like you.
Well, look, I think right now, 4 weeks into the season is really where you get a gauge of who teams are. The Bills have shown you Josh Allen is playing out of his mind, and he is playing with the responsibility of, my job is to make everybody better, and so far it seems like the guys around him are buying in. We're going to get a good measure of the Jets today. Hopefully they beat the Denver Broncos and they keep pace, because now it's become a 2-horse race for that division. Forget the Dolphins, forget the Patriots. It's a 2-horse race there. Mm-hmm. The Steelers could easily go to 4-0. And if the Ravens lose and the Bengals lose, don't look now, but the Pittsburgh Steelers might pull away for that division. There's still a lot of football left, but you run the football, you play defense, you have great coaching, guess what? And that's something you can always invest in. You look at the South right now in the AFC, Houston Texans look like the class of that South. I think they're really easy to wager on for that division. We want to see Travis Kelce show up today. That's another big one too. In the NFC, look, can the Commanders and Jaden Daniels be the surprise team despite that defense being bad? Maybe. I still think the Cowboys are the team to beat in that division. The Vikings, 3-0. They go to 4-0 with a big victory. Ooh, could that be exciting? Saints, Bucks, Falcons, everything is really tight there. Now all of a sudden, Andy Dalton made the Carolina Panthers good, and now the NFC West, it's the Seahawks who are 3-0. It's the 49ers that are 1-2. What does that West look like after this week? So this is going to be a fascinating end of the month of September here as we turn the page to October. Don't turn the page, though, here. Stay with SportsGrid. That'll do it for us. We'll see you next time, kids.
Anyone that's been
buy or sell, Anthony Richardson will be a top 7 fantasy quarterback this season. We're keeping this realistic here. We know, and nobody would think that he'll be in the top 3, probably not even the top 5. How about top 7, George? Buy or sell?
If he stays healthy, top 5 is not out of question at all. He's a running quarterback. We know how valuable they can be. My worry is going to be what I mentioned when we talked about the Indianapolis Colts. Boy, man, if Pittman were to go down, there's not a lot to throw. He'll be running for his life half the time there. I like Richardson a lot. Small sample size of what we saw of what he's going to be. I played the 5 games before the injury here. So for a longer season, we'll see if he gets to catch up to what he can do. He's going to have to prove he can throw the ball to be down the field here. I'm going to buy this. All right, I want to buy on Anthony Richardson. I want him to be that guy because I want to see the excitement that he can bring. That I think smart money might say go the other way because there's so many quarterbacks in that tier that hey, he could have a good year and still not finish top 7. That being said, I think he will show just like he did last year. He's going to be dynamic. I'm buying top 7.
Yeah, reminds me so much of Cam Newton in the early days too. I'm going to sell on this. I think it's too high. I think most leagues take away points for interceptions. If that's the case, I think his numbers are going to be 20-something touchdowns, 15, 16-something interceptions. That's going to negate some stuff. Yes, he will run. Can he play an entire season? Still very questionable for me. I have him as the 9th best fantasy quarterback at the end of the season, just outside the top 7. So I'm going to go sell on that.